to advise any students coming out of college who are going to go into a classroom, I would first say thank you and then just offer them this guidance to always trust that the process, even when it doesn't look like it's going to work, the process will work. You just have to engage in what it is you are committing to do. And don't be afraid to reach out for the support that you need, because I think that so many of our young educators fall by the wayside because they don't get the support that they need or that they want or that they feel they deserve, and they do. They don't know what to ask for, and they don't know how to ask for certain things because this is brand spanking new for them. So I would encourage that new college graduate to find a school that you are just the right fit for. Build relationships with your team, with your administrators, and rely on those people to help you get through those pivotal points that can become discouraging because you are kind of unsure of what the next thing needs to be. But just to hang in there and trust that the process works if you really engage in and with that process.
And just to add to what Dr. Taylor said, I definitely commend any new teacher for following your passion and coming into a wonderful profession. And we welcome all educators. The advice that I would give, or the guidance, would definitely be to make sure that you're not afraid to speak up and make sure that you're not afraid for your voice to be heard. A lot of times it's really easy to sit in meetings or sit with veteran teachers or educators and feel like they've been doing this forever. They have all of the answers. And a lot of times we do have a lot of the answers, but what we don't have are that fresh set of eyes or that new innovation. And a lot of new teachers have so many new things to offer that we're not even familiar with, but sometimes they are afraid to speak up because they feel like, oh, well, I haven't been doing this long enough, or they don't feel validated. So don't be afraid to speak up. Share your ideas. We need them. We have been doing things for a very long time in education, and we know a lot of the nuances, but your ideas may be something that could solve new problems that we're experiencing, or even old problems. So your voice is just as valuable as anyone else's that's been there for a long time. Don't be afraid to share your thoughts and ideas.
I think that's so powerful because you can bring that new energy that might be just what the school needs to get to that next level.
Happy Saturday, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Sheikah, and happy Saturday, everybody.
Yes, welcome to the Real Academy. I am Dr. Sheikah Houston, and my trustmate in education here, Dr. Tammy Taylor, and I are the co-host of the Real Academy. We are leaders at the district level. Tammy is at the school level, but we both have experiences that vary in leadership. She's served at the district level previously. We have 40 years of experience between the two of us. If this is your first time joining us in the Real Academy, we created this platform because when we found ourselves in the throes of state-sanctioned school improvement, there was help that we needed that we couldn't find within our surrounding area, right in our circle that we needed. So we had to go outside of that circle to find it. So this platform, the Real Academy, what we do on Saturdays every morning at 10:30 is to pay it forward, to be that help to leaders, to teachers, anyone trying to find solutions in education we are trying to help pay it forward and help them in some type of way, inform your practices. So those of you that tune in with us every Saturday, our real family, we appreciate you all joining in every Saturday. And for the new people, we welcome you. Tammy, you want to tell them about the acronym?
Sure. Our real framework was developed, as Sheikah said, as a way of helping us to navigate our way through state sanctioned school improvement. But the framework can also be used to provide the opportunity for staff and students and leaders to embrace the framework so that you never have to face going into state sanctioned school improvement, just to continuously improve through that process. And that framework is, as Sheikah said, the real acronym. And the R is for respect, the E is for excellence, the A is for accountability, that first L is for literacy, and the final L is for leadership.
Definitely. And our company, Create and Educate, we are presenters, we're speakers, we're professional developers. So we help turn around schools, we help leaders build their practice, we help your teachers inform their practice in areas, because those are things that we had to do when we turned around our schools. My middle school improved 2 report card grade levels in 1 year and has since exited the state sanctioned school improvement process. Tammy's school improved at her elementary school 3 report card grade levels in 1 year and has now exited that process. So we're very passionate about what we do. We know that a lot of times schools that are given that, what we call that letter of shame, sometimes is how it's made to feel. Sometimes you need support, and you definitely need support from people who know that process. So we know that process. We can help you through it. We're presenting at multiple school improvement conferences coming up this summer. So we're very passionate about what we do. And if that is something that you need for your school, please reach out to us through our website, or inbox us or email us. And what I found in my dissertation research is that the practices that we implement with this real framework, they're research based. They don't just only work with schools that are in school improvement, but because they are based on a theoretical framework, they help all schools improve. So everybody wants to grow. Every school wants to realize growth every year. Otherwise, you would have to question what you're doing. So any school that needs culture work, growth, help changing the academic trajectory for your students, those are things that we can help you with. We know that Principal Hurt, and we're pre-recording today, my family, if you would continue to keep us in your prayers. My mom's brother, my uncle, passed, and we will be funeralizing him today. So that's why Tammy and I are pre-recording. And her niece, Abby, today she's going to be celebrating which birthday, Tammy?
Birthday number 5. Happy birthday, Abigail.
That's right. So they'll be celebrating her birthday today, and she's going to be having an exciting time. My daughters will be attending that. So they're going to have a great time. So
but please do keep Miss Beverly and her family in your prayers. They are, of course, very saddened by the loss. And Sheikah, you guys have our deepest condolences from your real family here.
Thank you.
Sure, everybody does.
Thank you. And I know that Principal Hurt was, we'll have to go back and watch him, because his topic today is one that is very even fitting for what we're going to be talking about. When he says that you promote the wrong people, you begin to lose your best people. So I know that Principal Hurt always brings the fire. I know he was on fire this morning, and we can't wait to go back and watch it.
Definitely.
So our topic today in the Real Academy is to steer clear of these mistakes in leadership. We frequently get those inboxes, just like Principal Kafele talks about, of people saying, I got the job, and we're excited, they're excited, and we're excited for you. Being in leadership is a very exciting position. I loved serving at the school level. I love what I do now at the district level to help leaders. So it's can be a very fulfilling position. I think you have to go into it for the right reasons, and I think your heart has to be in the right place. But what Dr. Taylor and I have noticed, there are some pitfalls and mistakes that people can fall into as they enter leadership, because they may be looking at the wrong model or looking at some examples that may not have necessarily been the best examples. So the first one we want to talk about is when people go into leadership, a lot of times they think that they don't need a coach. And if you've watched Tammy and I previously, you've heard me refer frequently to my George Jefferson approach to leadership syndrome, where you go in with your head is big, your hands are shuffling behind your back, you think you know everything, can't nobody tell you nothing. You got it all under control, you know it, you got it, you're going to do this thing. And it is great to have confidence, but there is a very different thing to not think that you need a coach. And I think sometimes in education, period, we miss this some kind of way, because when you look at some of the greatest athletes of all times, like Serena Williams or Kobe Bryant, some of the greatest boxers of all times, they had coaches. And when I say the greatest people in these fields of all times, they were the greatest. So if you're so great, then, and they still had a coach, you as a leader, why are you thinking that you don't need a coach? And you do. And so there was another thing that I watched where a surgeon, he was a phenomenal surgeon, he talked about how coaching changed his whole mindset. And so he had that George Jefferson syndrome that I was talking about. And I hope that people know who George Jefferson is. He was on a sitcom that I used to watch growing up. I guess I'm dating myself. But the surgeon talked about how he brought another surgeon into one of his surgeries, and he was thinking to himself, what could he possibly tell me? This surgery was successful. I did everything right. And he said afterwards, the surgeon gave him 4 pages of notes of things he could have done differently. So I think that the misconception is a coach is someone who tells you what to do, but a coach is someone that informs your practice. You may be doing things great, but if you just changed this technique, it could have been better. So a coach just watches you. They inform your practice. There's somebody who you can actually bounce things off of. They make you think about things differently or see things from a different perspective. So if you don't have a coach, you're cutting yourself short.
Definitely. And I just want to elaborate on how important that coaching aspect of leadership can be, because one of the things that happens when you are in the bottom tier of state sanctioned school improvement is you are assigned what they call a transformation coach. And of course, I'm thinking that it's named rightly so, because the purpose of them being there is hopefully to transform the school, because you are at the very bottom. You're in the bottom 5% of schools in your state. So when we found ourselves in state sanctioned school improvement, one of the things that is a part of the sanction is you are assigned a State Department transformation coach. And I saw that process unfold, because unfortunately I was living it. And I saw at that initial meeting where the State Department brings the schools together with their districts, and they assign these coaches to individual schools. I saw the resentment and some of the disdain that some of the principals had who were present, because they were completely insulted that anybody thought that they would need a coach to come in and coach them through the process of improvement. But I approached that with a very different mentality. My mindset was, if you feel like you can send somebody here to help me to do things better, then I welcome them to come. And Glennis Brooks, who is absolutely a phenomenal coach and an incredible person, who was assigned to our school. And I do believe that that was a divinely assigned mentorship, because Miss Brooks was assigned, of course, to be my guide on the side. She was someone who came to me with a multitude of experiences, and her experiences were, years and years and years of various situations that she had worked in when I was a brand new principal. So that in and of itself was just, to me, a beautiful, beautiful part of being able to have her in the school to not just bounce ideas off of or for guidance through things that I had never experienced, but also as a thought partner, because there were things that I could think through out loud with someone who could help me to process through that. And I did not have to do that alone. So when Shika says that a coach is someone who not only is there to hear what you're saying, but to also, and she talked about some great athletes. You're talking about coaches who are on the side saying, you got this. You got this, because that's what the coach does. The coach is encouraging you to run the plays that have been set forth so that you can win the game. Mm-hmm. And so coaching is a very important aspect, I think, of what leaders can use to be able to learn and grow. Now, I can say this as well, which leads me to our second classic mistake that sometimes principals and other leaders make, and that's not thinking that you need anything other than somebody to guide you and coach you, not having a trust mate who can help you with things that you might not feel comfortable sharing with a coach, because your trust mate can see you at your most vulnerable point, and you're okay with that because you know they have your back regardless.
Definitely. And Tammy and I were definitely one another's trust mates through this process. And because she was my trust mate, I was not assigned a transformation coach, but because Tammy had one and she was my trust mate, if I needed something that I needed ran through Miss Brooks, she definitely read it through Miss Brooks, and Miss Brooks was my coach too. She just didn't know it. But
yeah, that's right. Thank you, Miss Brooks, for coaching.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Yes, definitely. But being one another's trust mates allowed us that space to, like Tammy said, be transparent, be vulnerable. Sometimes you need to vent to people in a safe space. Sometimes you have to rely on one another's expertise that you may not have or the other person may have. I did not have that early childhood background that Tammy had. So when my teachers at the middle level were vulnerable enough with me to say, Miss Houston, we're not really familiar with how to teach people, how to teach the children how to read. Like, we don't know how to do that. So I consulted with Tammy. What do we need, Tammy? How do I get my teachers versed in being comfortable with filling these gaps for my students? Because we're not going to get them to grow if they don't know how to do these things. And with Tammy, she had skipped that assistant principal position when she went from the district level to the principalship. So sometimes having to inform her of what the role of the assistant principal was and how that looked differently from the principalship was something that I was able to help her with. But being one another's trust mates, we were able to be vulnerable with one another and help each other in that space.
And yeah, go on and say you were coaching me to be the principal and the assistant principal, because in the beginning I couldn't keep one.
Well, some of that wasn't your fault though. So the third point we would like to make is not acknowledging your shortcomings. So if you have what I talked about at the beginning, that George Jefferson syndrome, where you're thinking you know everything, you don't have any shortcomings because you're perfect, you're going to miss some things because everyone has shortcomings. So it's better for you to have that self-awareness, to know who you are and know what your shortcomings are, so you can feel those things with the people that you bring to your team, with your professional development that you bring about for yourself and for your school. But just being able to acknowledge those things. I am a very strong, my personality is very strong and it's very dominant. So I needed someone on my team to level set me. I needed a softer person on my team to be able to balance me out, because if I'm coming strong all the time, I need somebody to say, well, you know what, Dr. Houston, maybe we should approach it this way, or what about these people, how they may see it over here. So you have to have that balance. You can't have it where you've got both people that are like that. You got to have some type of balance on your team. I didn't know if you had an example, Tammy.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say what you have to do is make sure that you don't think that acknowledging your shortcomings makes you weak, or you view those shortcomings as weaknesses, but view them as opportunities to grow and to learn and to develop yourself as a leader, because knowing who you are as a leader will help you to become the leader that you desire to be, or you need to be for the context that you're serving. Which leads us into our last point this morning of the mistakes that are classically made by leaders. And that's not being able to recognize who you are and what you need, so that you set professional goals for yourself. You always have to be willing to learn, to grow, to improve in order to be your best self. And I'll give you just a quick example. Sheikah and I went to a Black Educators Rock conference. It was our first. And so we went, and we were so excited, and we got there and we were surrounded by all these amazing educators and icons in the field. And we were sitting through keynote after keynote after keynote, and it was amazing, but very overwhelming, because one of the and I think it was Dr. Akua who was up at that time, and he was talking about being able to know who you are, and if you know who you are, you can guide the process that happens in your school with your children and all this. And we were looking at each other like, I don't even know who I am. Like, this is part of the problem. We are experiencing some of these woes that we're experiencing because we don't even know who we are. And so I set a goal for myself at that time to figure out who I am from antiquity. Like, I am not the person who has to succumb to what the dominant culture believes I need to be, but I can show up authentically every day and represent who I am. And that's how I choose to lead. I was so empowered by that I even changed my dissertation topic to say, listen, I've got to figure this thing out, because I refuse to be anybody other than who I am. And that came from that amazing experience and learning from that there is power in being you and being you authentically.
Definitely. And I was empowered, just like Tammy said, and to be culturally competent. And I brought that same empowerment back to my staff and to my students. And that was a major shift in our culture when we brought him in, for the students to hear who they actually were from antiquity. That empowerment empowered them to see themselves as, yeah, Dr. Houston is right. We are not this report card rated. We're going to do this. We're going to do better. And they did. So that conference made such an impact on us personally, but I was happy that it was able to also make an impact on my school and my students. So this brings us to the end. We just have a few seconds left, and we're going to tell you about an upcoming conference that we will be presenting at, the one we just referenced. The Black Educators Rock Conference will be in Jacksonville, Florida, July 13th through the 16th. If you have not registered, please get registered today. Tammy and Dr. Taylor and I will be presenting on revolutionizing school leadership and aligning the work. So what we talked about today and some other great things will be some things that we'll be talking about. We'll also be presenting at a school improvement conference in Gastonia, and we are confirmed presenters for the National AVID conference called NatCon. So thank you all for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Have a great Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
Oh, and tune in to Principal Kafele next, and Josh and Dean on Sunday. Thank you.
Have a good day, y'all.